Greetings, Disney adults, Disney fans of all ages. Welcome. Every year, my family chooses to go to Disney World during Thanksgiving week, and it's become a bit of a tradition for us. We leave on Saturday. My marching band marches in the Raleigh Christmas Parade, and then as soon as the parade is over and I can get home, my wife has packed up the car and we head to Disney. And we stay at Disney for a week. Now, one of the pluses we found out several years ago is that it means that we are at Disney for the opening of the Festival of the Holidays. Our favorite time of year is Christmas. We love Christmas time. We love the holidays. So being able to go for the Festival of the Holidays and seeing all of Disney World decorated for Christmas is just a blast for us. We absolutely love it. Now, the Festival of the Holidays always begins the Friday after Thanksgiving. So we make it a point to be in Epcot on day one of the Festival of the Holidays. Neat little perk that we discovered a couple of years ago was that it's also kind of cool because we can sometimes see some of our favorite YouTube bloggers in the parks on day one of Festival of the Holidays. It's kind of cool. But it got me to thinking, festivals. Epcot has got 4 festivals that happen throughout the course of the year. Many people call Epcot a festival park. So I started wondering, what would Walt think of all of the festivals that are happening at Epcot Center? And I said, I'm going to do a little research and find out a little bit about the festivals and see if I can give some insight in what Walt would think of the festivals. Now, of course, before we do that, and those of you who have watched my channel before know that before we can talk about what Walt would think now, we're going to have to do a little bit of history and learn where the festivals came from. So, join me as we go back in time.
Go runner.
Epcot Center opened in 1982, but actually the festival idea actually predates the opening of Epcot Center. You see, in 1981, a year before Epcot opened, over at Walt Disney World Village, which is now known as Disney Springs, something new was introduced, and it was known as the Walt Disney World Village Wine Festival. Now, the Wine Festival was mainly a showcase of local vineyards and local wineries and the various wines that they had to offer. There was really not any food offered at these festivals, but it was just a celebration of local wines. Now, this started in 1981, but it became an annual tradition and by all accounts was pretty successful. Meanwhile, back over in Epcot, again, Epcot opened in 1982, but the Disney company was always seeking to find a way to get more guests to come during the downtimes, mainly like the fall and and like early spring. And so Disney executives came up with the Flower and Garden Festival. And this was introduced in 1994. It began in late April of 94 and ran through early June. The Flower and Garden Festival was meant to be a celebration of the elaborate character-themed topiaries that ran all throughout the Walt Disney World properties, not just at Epcot Center. But the Flower and Garden Festival was focused at Epcot. It was an opportunity for the people to come admire the beautiful gardens that were all through the park. There was a focus on exhibits, on gardening education, and on showcasing the topiaries. Now, there was not really a focus on food at the time. 2 years later, in 1996, the very popular wine festival was moved from Walt Disney World Village to Epcot Center, and it was renamed the Epcot International Food and Wine Festival. It ran from the end of September through the end of October, so for about a month. Again, a lot of the purpose of this was to attract more guests into the park during a time when the parks were very slow. The festival grew, though, and the festival became very, very popular. And the growth of this festival is really what has led to the success and to the abundance of festivals that are now in the Disney parks. Also in 1996, Epcot launched the Holidays Around the World celebration, and this was anchored by the Candlelight Processional. The Candlelight Processional had been at Magic Kingdom until 1994, but in 1994 it was moved to Epcot. And then in 1996, this whole festival kind of focused around the Candlelight Processional began at Epcot. In 2017, the Festival of the Arts was introduced at Epcot Center. Festival of the Arts, just like the name sounds, a celebration of art. Local artists were invited to come in and display their works and show their works. Now, the Festival of the Arts, again, kind of meant as a way to sort of draw crowds in during a very light time of the year. It began in mid-January and ran through about mid-February of 2017. And for a couple of years, that's what we had at Epcot. 4 festivals, each of them lasting about a month. But then, you know about this, in 2020, COVID, of course, shut everything down. Well, after the parks reopened in August of 2020, in an effort to kind of draw in crowds again and sort of try to return to some normalcy, the Disney company expanded the Food and Wine Festival, and rather than ending in October, they instead pushed the Food and Wine Festival all the way to mid-November. So nowadays, in 2023, and in fact, I'm going to post the projected dates of the 2024 festivals right about here. And what you can see is that if you visit Epcot just about any time, there's a very good chance you're going to be able to see a festival. There's really only, nowadays there's really only a couple of weeks in between festivals. Epcot truly has become a bit of a festival park. But of course you're wondering, and you're asking the question, Todd, you got to answer it. What would Walt think of all of these festivals? I think Walt would very much approve of the festivals. Let's go back to Walt's original vision for Epcot. His original dream, of course, was of a community of the future, and you might say, well, what's that have to do with festivals? Perhaps not much, but Walt's dream was a living, breathing community where people not only lived in the community with the highest technology and the latest and the greatest innovations, but they also would have worked in Epcot. And at Epcot Center was going to be sort of the business district. Included in Walt's idea of a business district was some kind of celebration of cultures all over the world. Remember, Walt was still sort of glowing from his success at the New York World's Fair from 1964. And one of Walt's visions for Epcot was kind of a perpetual World's Fair. So not just every 3 to 5 years we have this massive World's Fair, or we invite cultures from all over, but instead at Epcot, it would always be there. There would always be this World's Fair vibe. And that's why World Showcase was added to Epcot. Sort of that World's Fair idea that Walt wanted. So I believe the festivals very much contribute to that idea of a perpetual World's Fair. The idea that you can go from booth to booth and sample food from all over the world, or that you can sample beverages from all over the world. Now, I'm not someone who drinks, so I don't really enjoy the wine portion of the festivals, but I do love to eat. So the food portion of the festivals I really like. And like I said, Festival of the Holidays, I love seeing the various traditions that exist all over the world around Christmas time. So yes, I think Walt would very much love the festival's idea. My wife and I have been fortunate enough to be at every festival at some point or another during our frequent visits to Disney. So we've been there for Food and Wine Festival, we've been there for the Flower and Garden Festival, beautiful by the way. Of course, Festival of the Holidays we enjoy every year. And then a couple of years ago, my wife and I took our first ever trip since our son was born without our son. Just the two of us. We went to Disney for just sort of a long weekend over Valentine's Day weekend of 2021. And it was very nice, very enjoyable. And it so happened Epcot was doing Festival of the Arts. And the art was beautiful. It was wonderful just to see. I mean, I actually enjoyed it quite a bit more than I originally thought that I was going to enjoy it, to be honest. One thing I remember is at the World Showplace, they had a huge display of a lot of art. And my wife and I walked in there, and one of the first things we saw was this booth where this gentleman had painted or drawn these beautiful pictures of the various resorts. The first one we saw was a portrait of the Wilderness Lodge. My wife and I spent our honeymoon and stayed at the Wilderness Lodge, and my wife started weeping. She said that's where we spent our honeymoon. As you can imagine, yes, that particular print is now in our home, hanging up in our bedroom. But it was a beautiful festival, and it was very nice to be reminded of something as wonderful as the honeymoon that my wife and I shared. So yeah, there's kind of a special place in my heart for the Festival of the Arts as well. Disney festivals, I think Walt would really appreciate, and Walt would have loved them. Well, what do you think? Give me some of your thoughts. Comment below. Have you been to one of the festivals? Which of the festivals is your favorite? What are some foods that you have tried at some of these festivals? Let me know. Do me a favor, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, I'd really appreciate it. Give me a like as well. Thank you for spending time with me, and I hope to see you at Disney World very soon.